Good morning, everybody. I am Jose Archino. Today, I'm going to talk about the position of a port terminal operations shift manager. That's the position I had in Colombia before coming to study my MBA in Canada, in Nanaimo. And that's the same position I am interested in getting here in Canada in any port terminal right now. Maybe I could start with this position. Maybe I will have to downgrade to a lower position to get later on this operations shift manager level. Anyways, without any delay, let's start with the presentation. First of all, a small industry analysis. What I noticed here, what I saw in the job postings from some port terminals, especially in DP World, which are, as I have seen, the biggest port operators in Canada. They offer extensive healthcare in their positions like supervisor, analysts, shift managers. They offer lifestyle spending accounts, which is an account where you can do some savings without taxes. Retirement savings plans, pension with employer contributions, and support for professional development as well. We have many, they offer many other benefits like dental and some other leisure benefits for the employers. The employments that I have seen, the employment rates vary between 40,000 to 110, 115 for maybe managers. In all positions in the port industry. Normally, the port industry they have good salaries in all their positions. Regions where it is strong, of course, in the coast sides, they have some inland operations as well, but mostly they have the highest quantity of opening positions in the ports terminal, like in Vancouver, all the Vancouver Bay. There are many port terminals in Vancouver. Maybe the biggest ones are the one in Delta and the one in the downtown, which is operated by DP World, the company I just mentioned. We have another big port terminal in Halifax, which is operated by a company from Singapore, PSA. DP World has another terminal in Prince Rupert. Prince Rupert is one of the biggest ports as well in Canada, and it's the second one in BC. It's northern. It's in the north of Vancouver, like same coast, but just up in the north. Prince Rupert. In Lake Ontario, which means Toronto, Hamilton, Mississauga. We have some other small port terminals where there might be some available positions as well. And of course, in Montreal and Quebec, in the St. Lawrence River, maybe smaller port terminals or berths, but there are those are sites, those are venues where you can find some positions as well. Okay, let's go on with future growth. This is an industry which is constantly expanding because, as we know, Canada is a country that is increasing in population every year. It's a big country with a small population. So the more the population increases in number, the more ports we need, because when there are more people need more goods, need more food, and we need bigger ports and more ports to trade goods and to get goods from other countries and to export goods. So this is normal in any country, especially in Canada. I have seen already many news about ports expansion of the Vancouver port in Delta, the big port you maybe have seen. In Nanaimo as well, we have a small berth which is operated by DP World as well. It's located in Duke Point. It's a small berth or container berth. This port is going to be expanded as well in the next years because, as you might notice, Nanaimo is a small town which is increasing in population. It's expanding. So we need a bigger port here. So there will be more opportunities in this port in the near future. Port of Oshawa, Toronto is also getting some investments from the government, from the federal government, to expand its operations, and that might be happening as well in Halifax and St. John's Port Terminal. These are not the only ports we have in Canada. We have many berths, small berth ports, big ports, but these ones are the ones that I saw that that might be in expansion in the next year. So there will be more positions available in the near future. Okay, about the Port Terminal Operations Shift Manager. This is already the position that I am going to talk about. So what are the tasks and the jobs for this position? Normally, the Port Terminal Operations Shift Manager is the leader of the operations, and it's in charge of the whole operation of the port terminal. While on shift, normally there are 4 or 5 shift operations manager, and they represent the operations manager in the field. They oversee the overall efficiency of the cargo handling operations, manage personnel. It's a like a very leadership position. Enable the best possible level of communications within the shift team and ensures that the whole operations go smooth and everything works efficiently and safe, which is very important in this environment where you are surrounded by big equipment. Everything is moving, so it can be a little bit risky. That's why the operations shift manager has to be aware of the safety of all the personnel in the shift. This position, the shift manager has to be is in charge as I told you, about the whole operation, including warehousing, container yards, break bulk yards, bulk operations, container operations. It depends on the port terminal, of course. If the port terminal is a mixed terminal with bulk operations and container operations, there might be one operations shift manager for bulk, one operations shift manager for container operations. It depends on the operation, on the volume of the operation, and the size of the operation and the size of the port. Okay. The employment rates I saw on internet, and I asked the person that we interview. This is a number that it's hard to get because people don't like to reveal their salaries, but it's something about between 80 and 90,000 Canadian dollars a year. And the projected growth for this position, after this position, you can become a department manager in the port. That could be maybe the warehouse manager or director, container yard director, break bulk director, operations superintendent, operations manager. Even that would be maybe some years ahead this position, but you can get the sense and the experience for these upcoming positions. And later on, as you already understand the operations, and maybe you have done many of these positions in the future, you can become the port terminal manager, which is the highest position in a port terminal. That's like the CEO of the port terminal. Uh, there are other options as well. You can change the industry since you already have a lot of experience in the operations. Then you can change industry and get maybe a higher position, better paid. Sometimes people take that path as well, which is completely valid. Okay, how is the path to get to the position of port terminal operations chief manager? Normally in ports, you start if you take the operations path, because this is the operations branch. Normally, you start as an operations supervisor in the field, bear supervisor or maritime supervisor. That's completely in the field, leading the operation from the field exclusively. Then you get a position after some years of understanding the operations in the berth. Then later on you can get a position as a dispatcher. In the controls of the operation, but this time the dispatcher works from the office with some like operational softwares. Then you get to understand the software behind the operations. Then in the same office, you can get a position when you have some experience with the software. Maybe 2 or 3 years later, you can become a vessel or yard planner, where you have to plan the operations. You're in charge of planning the operations in order to be executed by the dispatchers. And later on, you can become the port terminal operations chief manager, which already has the experience of having lead the operations in the field and from the office as well. So this person has completely knowledge about both things, the software behind the operations and the field, and the operations in the field. That's why it's so important. It is so important to do all these steps to get to this position. Normally, to start this career, to start as an operations supervisor, you just need a degree in any field related to business, operational management, logistics, even engineering can work as well. And skills or competitive advantages for the position here in Canada is the Canadian experience, operations experience, and port terminal experience. You have to have these three skills or competitive advantages to get this position. Okay, how to develop and advance in this position? Of course, as I told you before, in the port terminal industry and in the maritime industry in general, they value more the experience and the knowledge you have, not maybe the educational qualifications or degrees. You need them, of course, but they value more the experience in your field, in the operations, in the maritime operations. So you will need terminal operations knowledge, terminal operations experience. That's very valuable to advance. Managerial education, of course, that will be an asset, and that will be a valuable asset to go to a managerial position, to get to be maybe a department manager or operations manager, and at the end, the CEO of the company, of the port terminal. You will need that, of course. And another way to advance in this position is to change the company. If you are in a port terminal, you already have a lot of experience, and maybe you can change to a higher position in a smaller company, for example, in a smaller berth or a smaller port. That's a very good jump. Personally, I did it. In Colombia. I changed my job and I advanced like 3 positions, or I saved like maybe 10 years of career. Okay. Okay. Workplace culture in this occupation. What I have seen and what I learned from the interview that we did, um, about the work environment for this position, it's a combination between the office, uh, the operational field, which means the yards in the port terminal, and the berth. And normally you get a car to visit all these sites, to be in the field and in the office when you need it. And even there are many port terminals that don't have the berth in the same site, so you will need to move to another site, another venue of the city, so you will need the car. So you will be always in the car, office, or in the field. The shifts normally, here in Canada, here in the port of Nanaimo, the shift for the operations shift manager are 2 day shifts and 2 night shifts. That's four days working 12 hours, and you get 3 days off. So it's 4 by 3. The attire is a company shirt, white shirt in this case, for DP World here in Nanaimo, jeans, and of course the security boots, reflective vest from the company, and hard hat when in the terminal, when inside the terminal, but outdoors. In the office, normally people don't use the hard hat. But the reflective vest is very important in port operations, and the hard hat when you're outside, because it's a very risky environment. And the pace, it's a rapid pace. It's an operations environment, as I call it, where there is a lot of pressure for the productivity, and productivity for us means in other words, loading and unloading the cargo from the vessel as efficient and as fast as possible. Because as in any other industry, time is money. So the more time the vessel spends in our berth, the more time, the worse for our client. So we have to get the vessel and get the vessel to the berth and finish the operation as soon as possible. And the company size, normally port operators are multi-million dollar companies, because ports, all the equipment and the infrastructure are huge investments. I am mentioning a lot DP World because this is one of the biggest port operations in Canada, port operators, and they have ports in all around the world. They have ports all around the world in all the continents, big ports. So the investment for a medium-sized port or a small port could range between 200 or to $300 million, including equipment, the berth, and all things needed and all resources needed for starting the operations. So in general, these companies are huge companies and good employers. Okay, how to get involved in the occupation? Here in Canada, I discovered, and it worked for me, to go to the port authorities and talk to people in the Port Authority of Nanaimo, for example. I got some contacts there. I asked about industry job fairs, and that's where I found the person that I interview later on in a maritime job fair in Nanaimo. You can get some opportunities in these job fairs, and of course, the Port Authority has all the information about the ports. They are not the employers, they are not operators, they are let's say a federal agency. or a provincial agency, better. It belongs to the Nanaimo city, but they have all the information about companies in port and berths. In LinkedIn groups, uh, it is a good idea to follow the profiles of the companies. Once you know who are the operators, the port operators in Canada, it's a good idea to follow their profiles in LinkedIn, and of course, look for maritime groups related to Canada, Canadian maritime groups in LinkedIn. Sometimes they release some job opportunities. And of course, as I told you, maritime job fairs, look where they are going to be uh, in any place in Canada. If you live in Nanaimo, if you live in Vancouver, try to find out where they are going to take place, those maritime job fairs, because the maritime industry is a huge industry. So they always do these trade shows, maritime job fairs, and this kind of events that could be beneficial for your job seeking. And of course, specific companies' webs. Always be aware which companies do operate in Canada. Not only port operators, but maybe logistics operators, freight forwarders, and these companies. You can get jobs as well. Maybe not exactly the terminal operations shift manager, but you can look for shift managers in some other industries inside the maritime industry, like logistics. Okay, internship posting analysis, the an entry position for a graduate that I found that, for example, in my case, I could apply. I found this one, which is assistant terminal manager in a company which is called Drugs. This is a little bit this is different as this position is different as the shift operations manager, but it's very related because it's a managerial position inside a port terminal as well, so it can work. And I'm not going to read all the specifications and what they are asking for to apply to this position, but most important is like as the first one here, post-secondary education in operations, engineering, maintenance, or related field, 5 years of port and shipping experience. Uh, I'm going to compare my career with these specifications, and I will apply for this one. I mean, my CV will work with this one. Solid experience and understanding of managing and in a federally regulated industry. Maybe I don't have that one. Supervisory experience in an unionized environment. Port terminals are always unionized, and you will always have to deal with unions, which I already did in my country. Computer experience included but not limited to Word and Excel. That's easy to have. Excellent time management skills. You will get those skills when you get into an operations environment. What else? Strong organizational and time management skills. And I am not reading them in order. I'm just trying to look for the most relevant ones. Ability to work cross-functionally, build and maintain strong relationships with all teams, and effectively communicate across the organization. Okay. Ability to quickly assess situations and plan resolution. The operations in a port terminal are not the same, never the same. Every day in your life, when you are working on a port terminal, you get a different operation. No operation is the same. Then you will always have to be looking for problem resolution and finding out solutions for issues that appear every day in the operations. And you will need a strong leadership skill because you will manage yeah, the smallest port terminal could have at least 50 people working. Uh, then you will need strong leadership skills. Okay, becoming more competitive for this position. As I told you before, the most valuable thing in the maritime industry, especially in the port terminal industry, is the experience you have. It's the experience. How much do you know about the operations, and how quickly you can understand the operation of the port, and being aware of position openings, of course. Looking for contacts in each port terminal, try to have some contacts, and look for people that can tell you things about this specific port terminal. Logistics knowledge, not only operations and how the vessel is going to be discharged or loaded, but the whole logistic operation as a whole. What how do the cargo come to the port? How do the cargo uh is how is the cargo imported into the country, and some knowledge about the inland operations as well. That will give you competitive advantages for this position. Looking at the big picture, not only the port operation, but the whole international trade picture. That's a valuable asset to advance in this position, and to become more competitive. Okay, about the informational interview. mm, as I told you, in the maritime job fair that I was here in the Port Authority in Nanaimo, I went to the stand of DP World, and I got to know Theo Friedrich, who is one of the operations chief manager in Nanaimo. Uh, I start I started to asking questions to compare this position with my position in Colombia, and they were very similar. Of course, they cannot be the same because the ports are totally different. I was in a bigger port, and Nanaimo has a smaller port, and the companies are just different. So we found out many things in common, but we had some differences as well. So, the operations chief manager at Port of Nanaimo in DP World, as I told you, DP World manages almost all the berths in the, let's say, the Nanaimo region. Nanaimo has two berths in Duke Point, which one is the container berth, and the other one is another berth, which is related to wood. And they have another berth in Port Alberni. So the shift manager in Nanaimo has to take care of the operations of all these three berths. Uh, so he has a car. He told us he has a car. He has to visit all three ports during the day, and and lead the operations in the three berths. And the additional port is the additional berth I forgot to mention is here in the downtown. There's a roll on, roll off berth. That means they discharge cars when the cars need to be imported, and wood as well. So they have at least four berths. They operate at least four berths in the Nanaimo region. So he told me the shifts are, as I said before, 4 to 3. He told me he came from the container port in downtown Vancouver, which is operated from DP World as well. He was a vessel planner there. He advanced to shift operations manager there, and then he got this position here in Nanaimo as a shift operations manager. And he says here is much better because the there is not that much cargo, and the operations are more soft or more slow here in Nanaimo as they are in Vancouver. Of course, we get less cargo, we get smaller vessels, so it's more chill to say more more of the operation. So he told me it's a very nice position here in Nanaimo. And the advice that I got from him is that to be aware of the position openings always in DP World. Uh, Try to get at least an entry position on DP World. Like maybe I am not getting the operations chief manager right away, but I can get another, maybe a lower position. And in that position, then I should start trying to show my knowledge in my leadership operations in order to apply later on in the near future for a chief operations manager or a higher position. And he told me, of course, I should apply to other port terminals in industries as well, not only other port terminal operators, but maybe logistic companies, warehousing, land transport, even air freight. And this is all the presentation. I hope if someone, which I don't know, someone is interested in the maritime field, especially in port operations, you can approach to me and ask me any questions. I hope this presentation is of your value, and I will be there to help. Thank you very much.